There's no reason for me to vlog in the basement today. No one's home. It's pretty bright up here. I think my phone camera does something weird though when I walk around and record. Where should I put it? So, right before my parents left for their vacation, they took down all of my mom's elaborate Easter decorations, but they got this for Landon. How cute is that? I certainly hope they get good use out of it. I got all these prints made of pictures of him. It's like, there's him and my dad, Landon and Pap. Can't believe that nickname stuck. When he was first born, my parents were all trying to decide what they wanted him to call them. Which is funny to me because sorry, I just saw my weird neighbor and he was looking at me. Yeah, it's funny because as if they think that, you know, they can control what this little boy, when he grows up, what he calls them. I'm sure that he will just say whatever amalgamation of words comes out for my parents. So, I don't know. But he might call my dad Pap. I just think that sounds so weird and awkward. I don't know why my dad picked that. And my mom is so, I don't even want to say what my mom picked. It's just embarrassing. And I just, like, I hope to God that he can't pronounce it at all and just calls her grandma. Anyway. Well, okay, so my biggest issue at the moment is this friend of Renee's and mine, Paul, and unfortunately Paul has surpassed the point of being able to really talk anymore. Renee went to the hospital yesterday after he hadn't heard anything from him in 2 days. He spent Easter with him. And he told me how Paul was so much more relaxed and he wasn't demanding to be brought home, you know. But he was still talking about the future a little bit, you know, like talking about wanting to get, you know, buy a sports car or something like that. And he was saying to Renee, like, you'll have to tote me around in it, but, you know. And I don't know why Renee just kind of backed off for 2 days. And it's not my place to judge that. I don't know. But I guess he deteriorated so much. He didn't even write any emails after, I don't think, after their visit on Easter. That was the last that Renee heard from him. And when he went in yesterday to see him, he couldn't speak. He couldn't move. He was on, I guess, just so much, he was so drugged out and just on so much medication for pain, but he was still moaning and screaming out, and Renee was up all night. Like, he was waking up, you know, when somebody, like, jerks really hard in their sleep. He was doing that all night. I felt so bad for him. And crying out because he said he kept hearing that scream that he heard when they tried to, like, move Paul over a little bit. And it's really hard on him too, because Paul told him and has told him for a while now things that I know are not written in any kind of will or anything like that. And it's nothing, I mean, he did tell Renee in the last, since he's found out that he had cancer, in the last week or so, he has said a lot of things to Renee, like about wanting him to take his house, wanting Renee to have his vehicle and stuff like that. But the problem is, I guess, that everything is in some sort of a trust fund that has his wife's name also, or they're both equally whatever. His inheritance from his parents is going to probably end up going to her, and they've been separated for a couple of years now. They just never, that's another lesson. They never took the time to get the legal divorce. And Paul had been spending so much time trying to be sneaky and, sell as much as he could and get, squeeze as much as he possibly could out of the house. And then he wanted to try to sell it somehow, but now we know that he actually wouldn't have been able to sell it. A lot of things, I guess, kind of came to the surface a little bit, about some of the choices that Paul's made that even Renee didn't know about. But, it's, who cares at this point? The only thing that's really troublesome, I guess, really to Renee is that Paul told him he does not want to live like this. He told him if he ever gets to the point of not being able to control his bowels, having to be taken care of like hand and foot like this, that he doesn't want to be kept alive. Once they say that there's no hope, he wants them to pull the plug. Well, I don't know if that's written anywhere. I don't know. And the only person, I guess, that would even... They were talking about putting some family member in place as, power of attorney or whatever. But I mean, who legally, automatically, if you haven't designated them already, who makes that decision? I remember when my grandfather died, and my grandma had to make that horrible choice, but he was having stroke after stroke after stroke, and he was not going to make it. And she was telling me about it even like a year later, and she told me she didn't understand what they were asking her. She was in so much grief and shock that she couldn't. She said yes, pull the plug, because, she knew that was the, thing that he wanted, but, she regretted it. I think she felt very rushed. I remember her just telling me, people came, there was all these people around, and, the doctors asked her that, and then it was done, and it was, and she was just kind of reeling, like, what happened, and Renee right now is just kind of still like, I just talked to him. I was just with him on Easter, and he was talking, and he was okay. It's in pretty much every organ now. And I guess they're just waiting on whoever else is in his, whoever is in his family, quote unquote, which is really just this person that he was married to for a really short time. I think they've been separated longer than they were even married. And he really, really despised her. Which sucks because I think she's the only one that really has any say in the end. Renee was just crying, like, I know he cried. God. He cried most of the night. He was trying to hide it, but I could hear him and I could feel him just sobbing into the pillows. Honestly, this morning he said to me, I wish he would just die. I wish he would just die because there isn't any hope for him. And this is bullshit for him to have to go on like this. And so I asked him, do you feel like it's okay to pray and ask God to take him quickly and peacefully and release him from this disease? And he agreed with me that he felt like that was an okay thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and pray pretty soon. It's just so heartbreaking. I didn't know Paul that well at all, but I've heard so many stories about Paul, and I know how important he was through Renee's teenage years. He was sort of a good and bad influence, but in the long run, it ended up being that he was a good influence. And I don't know. It sucks. There are things that are just so freaking sad that you can't end them on a happy note. Really, you can't. It's okay though. Somehow, it is okay. There will be a brighter day.